Welcome to this SportsCenter special presented by Nationwide. Mel and Field's 3-round mock draft. We got a lot to get to today on this because we have to get through 3 rounds. This is our last chance to do this before we actually get to Green Bay. It's all coming our way so soon. You see, of course, Mel Kiper Jr., the guys who make the picks. Field Yates, of course, too. And before we get started, let's run you through the rules. I don't want any trickeration here, guys. We got rules on this show, okay? This is how it all goes. Mel and Field make alternating picks, the first 102 picks in the 2025 draft. Field has the odd picks, Mel has the even picks, and very important to remember, these picks are based off of team projections that Mel or Field would do as the GM. So their GMs today, they're great GMs, by the way. All 32 teams have a pick in this year's first round. So let's start with the team who holds the first overall pick, and that is the Tennessee Titans. Phil, take it away. Who will they be selecting?
Well, Laura, Mel and I feel very fortunate to have our franchise quarterback in you as part of the show today. The Titans feel very fortunate to have their franchise quarterback in Cam Ward from Miami. There's not a whole lot that we feel very confident is going to happen in the 2025 NFL draft, but certainly the Titans taking Cam Ward is about as much of a lock as you will see. The most dynamic playmaking quarterback in this entire class. He was excellent in his one season at Miami. He's got a cannon arm. He's got some magic to him. And the Titans' entire offseason has been built around eventually supporting Cam Ward. Lock this one in. Start looking for real estate in Nashville, Cam Ward. Welcome to the Titans.
Yeah, I think new GM wants his quarterback. Brian Callahan inherited Will Levis. He wants his own quarterback to be wired correctly. He stresses that a lot. He said, hey, when everybody in the stadium knows we're throwing a football, we want somebody who can deliver. Cam Ward certainly has the arm strength and the creativity to deliver big time. Now, he can get careless, can get a little reckless, and will take unwarranted chances, put the ball in harm's way. In college at Miami, you can get away with that right in the first quarter. You can't get away with it in the NFL. It can come back to haunt you and will cause you to lose a football game. So there's things he needs to clean up, but the skill set is outstanding and certainly warrants being the number 1 pick overall.
The NFL announced he'll be in the green room at the draft in Green Bay. So if this ends up happening, as we all expect him to be the consensus number 1 overall pick, it's going to be a really special story. Let's learn more about Ward and the support system that followed him all across the country. Cam Ward, truly a special young man. Let's continue on with the next 2 picks. 2 spots were there where they need a quarterback, So, Mel, get us started for the Browns. Do they go QB for you?
No, they do not. They won't. And I think at some point they will get a young quarterback into that quarterback room. But here you pass up if you do take the quarterback, you would pass up the number 1 player on my board. They're not going to do that. I think Lauren and Field, they need juice. They need offensive production, a fear factor player, which is what Travis Hunter is on the offensive side of the ball. Not to mention the lockdown corner he can be on the defensive side in the AFC, in a division with Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson as well. They have some corners, but you add another cover guy like Travis Hunter, who will be on the field on both sides of the ball early in his career.
Yeah, well done right there by Mel. I agree with Travis Hunter being the number 1 pick in the draft, or number 1 player in the draft, but Abdul Carter has a very short wait after Travis Hunter as the Giants continue to add to their defensive front. They take the Penn State edge rusher who had 12 sacks this past season. Laura, by far the best pass rusher in this intriguing group of pass rushers in this class. The Giants bypass a quarterback here. They still need to find a long-term answer, but a reminder, we've got 2 more full rounds after this, so still some time for them to do some work.
Ooh, that's a little teaser from Field. Okay, so this means, guys, now no Shedeur Sanders to the Giants in our mock.
So the Patriots can't get Hunter or Carter.
Though, as Shefty tweeting yesterday that Shedeur and the Giants will hold one last private workout Thursday.
Please let the
in
Giants
Boulder.
take Shedeur.
Mel, interesting development here. Just about a week away from the draft. What do you make of this news from Adam?
It's interesting. Brian Daboll wants that private workouts with the quarterbacks he's going to select. Obviously, you do all your due diligence, but I don't know if Abdul Carter with the foot, I don't know if that's something they're looking at, saying, hey, we need to look at another option. Abdul Carter's number 1 on a lot of boards. He's number 2 on my board. Great pass rusher, but does have the foot issue. You think about where we are with Shedeur. Shedeur Sanders, there's going to be a young quarterback coming into the fold with the Giants. So what they have to decide is there a big gap between Shedeur and the next quarterback? Or are we comfortable with the Kyle McCord coming out of Syracuse, or a Will Howard coming out of Ohio State, or a Jalen Milroe out of Alabama, or a Tyler Shuck out of Louisville, or Dylan Gabriel out of Oregon? Are we satisfied or okay with one of those young quarterbacks, knowing we have a chance to get Shedeur, but we're going to pass on Shedeur? So they have to figure it all out. They don't have a lot of time to do it, and this final workout, this private workout, could tell a lot. I mean, you're not wasting your time going to Boulder for nothing if you're Brian Daboll and the Giants. They've done a lot of work on Shedeur. One last look to either define it, we don't want him, or, hey, this kid's better than we thought. We got to take him because there's a big gap between Shedeur and the quarterback we may draft in the second, third, fourth round.
Yeah, what do you guys think about that? You think the Giants are going to end up taking Shedeur?
They might. Sold on a quarterback prospect early in the process and then fall out of love with that player during the pre-draft process. I think it's possible, though, for a team to be a little more lukewarm at the beginning of the process and by the end having warmed up to that player. This is the best, maybe the first chance for the Giants' full brain trust to not just be around Shedeur Sanders, but be around Shedeur Sanders with nobody else there, right? The Colorado Showcase a couple of weeks ago, there was hundreds of people there. There was very little opportunity for the Giants to legitimately interact with Shedeur Sanders. And I think that while I would not take a quarterback at number 3 overall based off my rating of Shedeur Sanders and the other non-Cam Ward quarterbacks, Laura, I do think the Giants are evaluating this question. We will now potentially go back-to-back years with a top 6 pick in the draft and a desperate need for quarterback and bypass all quarterbacks twice. Is that a healthy way to give us a chance to get back on track and avoid what happened at the end of last season, which to me, Laura, looks like an almost apathetic fan base and a nearly empty stadium as well at home games?
Well, of course, as we all know, GM,
they're going to have a top
coach,
6 pick again, and they're going to take Arch.
There's so much pressure here. There's so many layers to it for what the Giants are going to do. We'll be fascinated to see if anything comes out of that private workout that we find out about. Either way, we'll know soon enough who they take. Now, let's go quickly through a few of the other top 10 picks. Mel, who goes to the Patriots with the 4th pick?
Well, the Patriots have a quarterback that the Giants wanted last year, but couldn't go up and get because the Patriots took Drake May. What you have to do now if you're the Patriots is protect him. The blindside protector would be Will Campbell, coming out of LSU with all that experience for the Bayou Bengals, right? Arm length not ideal as an outlier, but he was a heck of a football player. And he brings that attitude that Mike Rabel wants. Mike Rabel said, hey, that arm length's not an issue. I've talked to O-line coaches and say, hey, do you maximize what you have? Some guys have long arms and don't maximize it. They kind of minimize it. So for Will Campbell, all that experience in a talent-laden SEC as a left tackle is the reason why he goes to the Patriots at pick number 4.
Yeah, Laura Moore pick at number 5 here. Mason Graham going to the Jaguars. They basically have a tackle at the point of attack last year. Says a lot for a guy who played in a Michigan defense last year that was without a lot of key pieces.
Yeah, Ashton Genty, I'm going to stick with him to the Raiders. They could not run the football. Geno Smith, Pete Carroll together again. Now you get a guy who can run the football between the tackles. At his size, he gets lost behind those blockers, and then he's off to the races. And he can block and he can catch out of the backfield. We talked about that contact balance being exceptional. He's a complete football player and also brings kind of that Raider mentality, that old Raider mentality that they had with the late great Al Davis in command.
Yeah, Laura, when I look at the Jets depth chart, I see a right tackle hold that's about 6'3.5" and 314 pounds, which fits Armand Membu perfectly. The Missouri right tackle who spent 3 years there, just 20 years old, amongst the youngest prospects in this entire class. The tone setter is an excellent pass protector as well as the Jets build their offense for at least on Mel's boards.
Yeah, back when the season began, we thought it would be Michael Williams or Malachi Starks being the best player on that Georgia defense. Turned out it was Jalen Walker, number 11, all over the field. You can play him off ball. You can play him off the edge. This is a pick for a team that needs help at that spot. And Jalen Walker's versatility and how dynamic he was and how consistent he was week after week. There was not a game where he didn't pop on that Georgia defense, and he had one heck of a year. Jalen Walker viewed as almost a lock top 10 pick right now.
Seems like all these top 10 picks have just stayed the same. Like, I have to believe there's going to be a curveball. Raiders fans, what do we think of Genty at 6?
Cornerback last season. This man can do it all, and you're going to want to stick around. We got a lot more coming your way here. Coming up next, 24 more to go in the first round, plus more after that. Browns and Giants
Shedeur to the Saints, I guess.
Add a versatile player in Travis Hunter and a powerhouse on defense with Abdul Carter. All eyes now on the Saints pick at number 9 with Derek Carr's status for the season up in the air. Do they go quarterback Field Yates?
Well, I think, Laura, there's a reasonable case that the Saints would be better served to bottom out right now. But their actions this offseason suggest that they want to compete in 20. That being said, I don't think there's any doubt that Shedeur Sanders is the second most talented passer behind Cam Ward in this class. He's got a great poise about him. He is a very, very gifted pocket passer, just not an overly big quarterback, doesn't have a rocket arm, not nearly as creative inside of the pocket, not going to impact quite as much with his legs as some of the other quarterbacks in this draft class will. But New Orleans certainly desperate for a signal caller. Shedeur Sanders lands in the same colors that he played at during his college career, which I'm only bringing up because his father told Louis Riddick and I at the Colorado Showcase that they happen to love those specific colors.
Hint, 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 maybe. All right, so Mel, you heard the reasoning from Field there. What do you think with knowing this Derek Carr information? Would that change the draft strategy here with what they do?
Laura, young Fielding was pivoting away from Shedeur and saying, okay, they need something else. And then the news of Derek Carr's injury came down, and Field said, okay, we got to go to Shedeur. It took some convincing for Field to go to Shedeur at pick number 9. It took no convincing for me. Shedeur was the guy, and I couldn't understand why you would pass on Shedeur at pick number 9 when you have Derek Carr, you need the heir apparent, and you're in a division. It's perfect. You're in a dome stadium. It was perfect, ideal for Drew Brees. Remember, Drew Brees was maybe set to go to Miami. He ended up in New Orleans because of the shoulder. They end up with Dante Culpepper. The dome helped Drew Brees. Doesn't have great size, doesn't have the howitzer for an arm, and he won a Super Bowl. He was a great quarterback, Drew Brees was. Shedeur can be that type of quarterback in New Orleans with the dome, Atlanta Dome, Carolina, Tampa, nice weather. An ideal fit. Thought it all along. I didn't need the Derek Carr injury news to put Shedeur Sanders in New Orleans. Young Fielding did. I didn't. We differ on how we feel about Shedeur. I get it, Field, why you feel the way you do, but I think now certainly New Orleans Saints at pick number 9 makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, see, Laura, Mel is trying to this is an analogy for when I take my wife out to dinner. I know exactly.
Y'all think
what
the Saints would have to trade up from 9
ask the
because
waiter, and then maybe even the person.
Maybe someone would trade up in front of them.
Should I do this? Should I not? A little bit of wavering on the part of Chapin Yates. I still love her all the same for it. So Mel maybe has it right here with Shedeur Sanders. The only thing that I want to mention is I wouldn't totally rule out the Saints taking a quarterback that isn't Shedeur Sanders here at number 9 overall. As we know, quarterbacks are beauty in the eye of the beholder. Everybody besides Cam Ward is likely to be available at number 9 for New Orleans. Perhaps they see a better quarterback prospect in their own eyes. Not in my eyes, not in Mel's, but perhaps in the Saints' eyes.
A little Jackson Dart, Tyler Sugar.
So
we'll see, though.
Saints going to take Jackson Dart at 9, and Shedeur goes where? 21?
End up going
26?
with those two. Let's keep it moving here, though. Okay, picks 10 through 12. Mel, get us started with the Bears.
Bears, I get a guy in Tyler Warren who is perfect for Caleb Williams. You have Cole Kmet. You have obviously Rome Odunze last year. You got DJ Moore. They needed a third receiver. How about a weapon? How about a receiving entity? We said the exact same thing about Brock Bowers last year, saying this about Tyler Warren. Great with the ball in his hands. A powerhouse running the football after the catch. You can move him around anywhere. He can throw passes. 3 for 6 with a touchdown pass this past year. Had a ton of rushing yards as well. Great basketball player in high school, quarterback in high school. What didn't he do this year? Guess what? He did everything. It'd be an outstanding addition for Caleb Williams and this Bears offense.
Mel, as the 49ers imagine life after Trent Williams, they're going to eventually need an heir apparent at left tackle. In this case, I give them Kelvin Banks, the Outland Trophy winner from Texas, who maybe didn't have quite the same level of season in 2024 as he did in 2023, but he's got a nearly 85-inch wingspan, very good athlete, has 3 years of starting experience, and if you talk to people around that Texas program, he was a catalyst behind their turnaround and making the playoffs this past season. Big fan of Kelvin Banks.
They say if you're stubborn, you're stupid. I tried to be not too stubborn here and keep the running back Amari and Hampton there. I wanted to get him down to Denver anyway, and it worked out perfect. 9 games, 20-yard average per catch or better. Matthew Golden was phenomenal, and then he ran spectacular 40. Matthew Golden to the Dallas Cowboys with C.D. Lamb to help out Dak Prescott and pass on the running back Amari and Hampton.
I mean, I love the way that sounds, and you can just visualize what it would look like. Mel, in your recent mock 4.0, though, you had the Cowboys going running back with Amari and Hampton. What made you change your strategy here?
What you're hearing, and like I said, I don't want to be stubborn about it, Laura, and I think Denver, it worked out beautifully for Sean Payton and Denver Broncos to see Amari and Hampton there at pick number 20. I know that's more of a palatable spot in the first round for Field and his grade on Amari and Hampton. I think up at 12 is not too high for Amari and Hampton. I don't think there's a huge gap between Ginty and Hampton. Some do. I know Field does. But I think either way, the Cowboys are sitting pretty at 12 because Hampton would look good in the Cowboy uniform, no question about that. So would Matthew Golden. Tedero McMillan moved down just a bit. Golden, I think, has seized control of that WR1. If you take Travis Hunter and say, okay, he's dual threat, we'll take him out of the equation. Matthew Golden has emerged as a top 15 pick.
Yeah, Laura, I think people are probably sitting there wondering what happened with Tedero McMillan.
Yeah, I was just about to ask. Yeah,
with 1,300-plus receiving yards. The only player in the entire FBS to do that in back-to-back years. I would draw the parallel to what we saw happen with Keon Coleman last year, who entered the NFL Combine, I thought, with top 15 upside. Then he runs a 4.61 40. He ends up going 33rd overall to the Buffalo Bills. So not too far of a drop, but the first pick of the second round. Tedero McMillan never ran a 40 at the Combine. He did run it slower than Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky as the fastest player in the Combine. And it's not just time speed, Laura, it's functional speed. If you see him on tape, this is a guy who rolls in and out of his cuts, and certainly when the ball is in his hands in the open field, basically it's a touchdown because he is a difficult guy to catch up with, thus the potential for him to go ahead of Tedero McMillan in the first round.
I do think that'd be good for the Cowboys. They need something besides CeeDee Lamb.
Dak would be salivating. All right, let's turn our picks 13 to 20 now. Guys, which pick stands out the most to you? Mel, go ahead.
That's the Indianapolis Colts, Laura, with Colston Loveland, a tight end. And a lot of people think is right there with Tyler Warren. I think there's a little bit of a gap with Loveland coming off the shoulder. Obviously, quarterback issue at Michigan this year, but this kid is a dynamic pass-catching option down the field. This kid has excellent hands. He's a great athlete. He's getting a little stronger in terms of blocking and contested catches go Warren's way a little bit more than Loveland's. But Loveland is a big-time talent. This is a team since Dallas Clark. Think about that for the Indianapolis Colts with Peyton Manning. Whether it's Anthony Richardson, whether it's Daniel Jones, and they want to try to make Anthony Richardson great this year and have him turn the corner. Colston Loveland really helped out in that regard.
3 picks later, Mel, the Bengals take Walter Nolan, the defensive tackle out of Ole Miss, formerly of Texas A&M. This is a player who arrived in college with major attention. What did he do this past season? Set a career high with 6.5 sacks. He doesn't have good power, Laura. He has destroying power in the middle as a pass rusher. One of those guys who his best snaps are about as dominant as any defensive player not named Abdul Carter in this class. Cincinnati could go the entire draft on defense, and I would give them a round of applause for that after what we saw happen.
So all his stats are on Lagway?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because there's so many places we could stop in these different rounds and be interested in, but this one really sticks out. The number 21 pick, which belongs to the Steelers. Field, who will they select?
Yeah, more defensive tackle love. We're here for the big boys today on mock, whatever number it is for us. Derek Harmon from Oregon spent 1 season at Oregon, out in Eugene after 2 years at Michigan State. He made the most of that 1 season, a great year for the Ducks, obviously, until they're as a defensive tackle. He's got excellent length. He's a very good pass rusher. He's very disruptive as well. We have seen this explosion of defensive tackle money in the NFL. 21, I think, might be even too low by the time we get to draft day for Derek Harmon. Very clean prospect at a growing position in terms of importance.
I feel like this year these really experts are just going to, out of the 32 first-round picks, they might get 10 this year.
Why'd you pass on him for Harmon?
Just feels like it's going to be very...
Mean things to me about my mock drafts previously, so I had to adjust them a little bit. No, here's I'm pulling actually a little Kiper trick here because Mel mastered this strategy a long time ago. You make your mock drafts with the idea of something else taking place in mind. So this mock draft assumes that Aaron Rodgers decides to play football and does so for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, it's what, 9 days away from the draft, and it still hasn't happened yet, Laura, so I'm a bit nervous about that. However, even if he doesn't, one more reminder, don't leave the show yet because we still have 2 more rounds of potential picks to address the quarterback spot for the Steelers.
I think Rodgers wants to play. He just wants to show up in August.
Yeah, I think when you look at Fielding's mock and the way he picked his teams, I'm just congratulating him, Laura, on the Cincinnati Bengals not taking an offensive player, okay? So we did get through the field on that to go defense with the Bengals just about every pick. But in terms of the Steelers, I think they may see a little Cam Hayward in a guy like Derek Harmon, kind of Cam Hayward there to mentor Derek Harmon. Derek Harmon had a heck of a year at Oregon, coming over from Michigan State where he was okay, but not certainly good or great. He was outstanding this year and high character as well for Mike Tomlin and the Steelers. And his defense keep getting it better. And then locate, obviously, a quarterback at some point. They don't have a second-round pick. Remember, that went to Seattle for DK Metcalf. So I think Derek Harmon here. We had heard from Adam Schefter that it wasn't this. Went with Derek Harmon here to the Steelers.
We got Derek Harmon in the
just
studio
so
right
just
here,
to reiterate, I think this draft might get a little weird in the first round.
The strong survive. He's just ready.
Probably very hard to predict.
Steeler.
Like, he totally is.
He's made for it. He would fit really well there.
This might be life size, by the way.
I was
like a 10-foot wall, and it might be. He is huge.
He's a large man. We're moving right along through the first round of this 3-round mock. We got a lot more coming your way. We were talking about Jackson Dart. Well, he remains on the board as you see there, but how much longer might we have to wait? Welcome back to this SportsCenter special presented by Nationwide. Mel and Field's 3-round mock draft, and we are fully in it. We're in the thick of it, okay? But let's take a look at picks 22 through 28. A couple wide receivers are off the board here.
Ooh,
Mel, tell us about the Chargers pick.
Emeka Egbuka, wouldn't it be great? A Buckeye to a Wolverine and Jim Harbaugh. I think it would be fun to see that happen. You think about Ladd McConkey needing some help in the passing game for Justin Herbert. Who better than Emeka Egbuka? He's NFL ready this year to come in as a rookie. He's got versatility. He's got really strong hands, and he's clutch. When the game is on the line, he wants the football. He's got run after the catch ability. Ran in the 4.47, 4.48 range at his pro day. This kid, professional receiver, ready to go with the Chargers. I think it's a nice fit, really a good fit for Justin Herbert.
And the Houston Texans need some wide receiver up, as you're aware, Laura. Stephon Diggs, now a Patriot. Tank Dell, uncertain for 2025. Enter Tedero McMillan, who does not have to wait any longer than number 25. I will just say this, though. I know the speed is a question mark. Call it 4.
For CJ, I mean, they already have Nico Collins.
We're going to arrive at the 29th
size
pick,
of receiver, but
trade has been made. So Washington has traded the 29th pick to the Browns. Washington trades pick 29 and pick 128 to the Browns for picks 33 and 67. Field, who will the Browns be selecting with this pick?
I tried to make a trade with Kiper, by the way, Laura, and he just rebuffed every offer that I made. Not enough pumpkin pie involved. But
He's been here before, okay?
The Browns have made the decision. Straight up for Jackson. Ole Miss quarterback who led the FBS in yards per attempt last week. He's a good vertical thrower down the field. He's got some good athletic ability as well, does Jackson Dart. I have him as the 35th player overall on my board. This is just a small jump up in terms of the order to where he lands. And in this case, we know quarterbacks, you have to be very careful. You try to get too cute and wait until number 33 overall. The New York Giants could jump ahead of you. The Browns need a quarterback to add to their stable. That room, of course, now includes Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett. Room for a drafted quarterback, I believe, very high in the order.
Ooh, I love this. Okay, Mel, Field tried to bribe you with pumpkin pie there, but what grade would you give GM Field with this trade?
Come on, lay it on him.
I like it, Laura. I think when you talk about exciting the fan base, you got Travis Hunter coming to that organization at pick number 2, that juice to the offense. Well, hey, you got juice
Browns
to the offense,
fans,
right?
do we want Jackson Dart?
And Jackson Dart, we've talked about him. He can be a really good starting quarterback. We talked about, hey, will New Orleans take Jackson Dart or Shedeur Sanders? We're about the 9th pick overall. That's not too high. Jackson Dart has a lot of talent. People underestimate his arm. How about the athletic ability? I want to see him use those legs. Over 1,500 rushing yards the last 3 years. He improved every year in that program. Yeah, does he have wow factor in any one area? No, but he's good in all areas, solid in all areas. He's highly competitive. I think for the Cleveland Browns in a division where you have Lamar and Burrow in the great AFC, you got to try to keep swinging at quarterback and to go get your guy. I don't think it was too much to give up. I like the move.
I think Jackson Dart is going to be a great pro. He's 4th in the SEC in history and career total offense behind Aaron Murray, Drew Lock, and Tim Tebow. He's done all right for himself. All right, let's take a look at the next 2 picks. Mel, get us started with the Bills at 30.
Yeah, you got to get corner. You need cover men in Buffalo. I have multiple cover men in Buffalo. And Trey Amos is a cornerback at Ole Miss. Let's follow the Jackson Dart scenario and just go back to the Ole Miss Rebels program. And Trey Amos has the kind of length and he has the recovery speed that you want. And locating the football, turning at the right time, I think really showed improvement in Trey Amos' game this year. This is something the Bills need because, hey, Kaiir Elam didn't work out coming out of the Buffalo Bills.
You know, Laura, they say patience is a virtue. In this case, it pays off for the Chiefs. It's Josh Connolly Jr., the offensive tackle out of Oregon, who was excellent this past season.
It's a shame. I don't think they've talked about the Bucs one time this entire mock draft season.
A left-handed quarterback this past season. So it's a different responsibility playing for Patrick Mahomes. A very stable, steady, consistent player, was excellent in his biggest assignment of this past season against Abdul Carter. I'm not convinced he makes it to number 31 overall. I would also be mindful of teams like the Browns and the Patriots coming out from the top of round 2 to land a player like Connolly somewhere in the 20s.
Such a talented player. And look at us now. We're getting to the end here of this first round, but 2 more rounds to go. The Super Bowl champion Eagles are up to close out the first round. So, Mel, before we get to the pick, take us through what the Eagles' biggest needs are entering the draft.
Got a Hall of Fame GM and Howie Roseman, and they go in the trenches, but safety, defense, a versatile defensive lineman, certainly edge as well. But I think when you look at the tight end spot somewhere, they could address their linebacker, whether it's off ball, like say edge, go that route. And it kind of fell that way, Laura, for the Philadelphia Eagles. You sit there at 32, this team's did a masterful job drafting, not only just sitting and waiting, they are aggressive. When they see somebody slide a little bit, they will go up and get them, okay? They have done a phenomenal job utilizing the draft, and they're stockpiled with picks. And here we go again with a guy. Back about a month ago, we were talking about top 10, top 15 for Jahad Campbell coming out of Alabama. Great leader, right? A guy super smart to do in the NFL to be a 3-down linebacker. Guess what? He can attack the quarterback inside and outside. They thought in the NFL it may be a little bit more outside. So an off-ball linebacker with his smarts, his diagnostic ability, and his versatility. Only reason he's there,
Eagles' entire team is about to be made up of Bama and Georgia.
Pick 32.
I was about to say, if he can get healthy, that would feel like a major steal and something that the Eagles, Howie Roseman, as you mentioned, Mel, he's been able to push all the right buttons in the draft of late. That's why they won the Super Bowl. All right, that concludes the first round of this 3-round mock draft, but plenty of talented players remain on the board. You're looking at it right there, and that includes between Mel and Field. The Commanders are up with the 33rd pick as we continue here. And just a reminder, they acquired this pick in a mock trade with Cleveland. Fields, who is Washington selecting with the pick?
Boston College pass rusher Donovan Ezra-Raku fills a huge need here, Laura, and a player that Mel and I were talking about this during our last break. Maybe the best pure pass rusher in the class. He has excellent length.
And sooner than 33. All right, moving right along, where the Giants pick at 34. Mel, who are the Giants selecting?
Tyler Shuck, quarterback out of Louisville, formerly of Texas Tech and Oregon. Started out as a backup to Justin Herbert. Then the injuries, 3 straight years at Texas Tech. Now finally healthy, and he was able to put on a show.
Surprised no one's compared him to Patrick Mahomes since they went to the same school.
Spin it at 6'5", 220-plus pounds, ran 4.63, and a guy who's coming in at 25 years of age, will be 26. Does anybody care anymore? Probably not, okay, because 30 is the new 35. Bottom line is Tyler Shuck, Louis Riddick, our good friend, Louis Riddick, wore me out on Tyler Shuck, and I had to put him somewhere in that early second. I've had him steadily at that point in this mock draft. Even in the previous mock draft, Tyler Shuck going somewhere late first, early to mid-second round.
You know, as somebody who hovers around 35, I like that from Mel there. 30 is the new 35.
We'll take it.
Wait, no, I said it wrong. 35 is the new 30.
Yep.
That feels better. All right, Mel, in your latest mock, you had the Giants selecting Jalen Milroe. So why did you change your mind, other than Lewis's influence, to go with Tyler Shuck?
Yeah, it's just a hunch, and I think when you look at the consistency that Jalen Milroe lacked really after game 4, Laura, and can you fix the accuracy? And I had said, okay, when I did my mock 4.0, maybe Brian Daboll will look at that and say, hey, I fixed it with Josh Allen. I can fix it with Jalen Milroe. But with them both being there, it's going to be really interesting. Jalen Milroe, mixed opinion. Tyler Shuck, some mixed opinion on him. I was 50-50. This was one of those flip of the coin on Tyler Shuck or Jalen Milroe. Went with Tyler Shuck here. Milroe could be the guy. Like I say, if he sees a little bit of that Josh Allen in Jalen Milroe, who's got the rocket arm, tremendous ability as a runner, if he wants to roll the dice on that quarterback, he could. If he sees some things in Shuck that he likes, so that size, the arm strength, and that's the thing too. Both these kids have the arm to deal with the conditions in New York, Philadelphia, Washington.
Yeah, it's such an interesting contrast in prospects too, right, Mel? Because in Tyler Shuck, who will be 26 in week 4 of this upcoming season, some people are saying, on the plus side, you've got maybe a guy who's going to come in really refined and ready to go as an NFL player. On the other hand, people are saying, well, how much better will Tyler Shuck get? I tend to believe there is plenty of room for growth. That being said, that would be kind of the counterpoint to Tyler Shuck. Meanwhile, with Jalen Milroe, it's, hey, he's not ready to play right now, except for in a package of plays that revolves around his incredible running skills. But in time, if you develop him up, he could be the second most physically talented quarterback in the class, besides Cam Ward. So it's kind of a floor versus ceiling debate that could take place within that Giants draft room.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, both of you, 1,765 rush yards over the last 2 seasons for Jalen Milroe. It's there, just someone's got to harness it, right? As we look at picks 35 through 39, a few more skill position players off the board. Mel, tell us about the Jaguars pick at 36.
Here's an interesting one, Lauren Field. Luther Burden III. We thought back, and I did mock 1.0, maybe 12 to Dallas, right? Well, you think about recovering through the process. He did. He kind of fell back. Now it's coming back up the board. And for Jacksonville, a pass catcher, a guy with kind of ability he has for Trevor Lawrence and Liam Cohen coming in as the head coach. Luther Burden III makes sense, is in abundance.
You've been around this mock draft world a lot. You remember the top 10 pick Luther Burden talk. Travion to the Bears.
In this case, Travion Henderson is the light. He is explosive, Laura. At his very best, when used on runs on the perimeter where he can get out in space, he kind of reminded me what the Cowboys did with Tony Pollard during his last year with Zeke, where they got him in space and let him cook. This man can absolutely fly.
What did he have as a freshman? 20-plus touchdowns, had the Ohio State record.
Love it for Caleb Williams. Let's go to the New York Jets. They own the 42nd pick. Before we make the pick, though, Mel, what are the head coach needs for Aaron Glenn and the Jets' biggest needs as you look at them as a whole?
Well, the right tackle spot critical, Laura. That's why Armand Membo made sense. And you figure we can get the tight end, which is a second need area, maybe in the second round, as a second-round possibility. And then wide receiver, weapons for Justin Fields. Obviously, Garrett Wilson's going to be the guy. The Ohio State Buckeyes back together again with Justin Fields and a guy like Garrett Wilson. But adding a weapon at that tight end spot is critical. And I really think there's an opportunity. You've got to look at it. First round, can we get the right tackle? Second round, can we get an Elijah Rohrer? We got Membo. Now we got a guy who was on fire this year with Cam Ward throwing him the football. He's got a tremendous skill set down the field. He looks like a big wide receiver. He is a target, like you talk about in the second round. It really could be a first, and nobody would argue. Elijah Rohrer would have put together 2 outstanding years, probably would have been around 20 to 25. To get him in the second round, paired with Membo, all of a sudden Justin Fields in that offense is a lot better.
Well, along those lines, and maybe some players we could see making a rise up the board, but Fields, who's one guy who you could see making a big rise potentially into the first round?
Yeah, Laura, we've talked about how the X factor in this last couple weeks of the pre-draft process is the health of these players. We're not doctors. We don't pretend to be. But Josh Simmons from Ohio State, if he were healthy, would be long gone by the time the first round is over, maybe in the top 10 picks. But because he suffered a torn patella tendon back in mid-October of last year, he could find his way in the second round. That being said, you find a team that says to itself, either A, we're very medically confident, or B, we're just willing to be patient, they could get themselves a steal late in the first round if Josh Simmons realizes his form that he had prior to that injury.
Laura, we got the Kentucky Derby the first Saturday in May right now at Churchill Downs. I'm going to go with an entry here. I'm going to go with 2 UCLA Bruins as my entry. Carson Schlesinger was a tackling machine, former walk-on this year for the UCLA Bruins. And Olufemi Oladejo moved off ball to outside and was getting there after the quarterback on a regular basis. Both these UCLA Bruins, Schlesinger to the Colts and Oladejo to the Bills, make sense. There are solid second rounds. I think Schlesinger could even sneak in to the late first round, and Oladejo move up into the early second round.
Keep an eye on the ride. This SportsCenter special is presented by Nationwide. Nationwide is on your side. Welcome you back as we enter the third round. Let's take a look at Fields' best available players. Good players on here. Atop the list, Minnesota offensive tackle Ariante Ursary, who was all
Trey
Big Ten
Harris,
first
RJ
team
Harvey,
last season.
Princely.
Then a couple defensive tackles and the Big Ten's leading rusher last season, Iowa's Caleb Johnson. So some good options here. Field, the Commanders have the 67th pick acquired from Cleveland in the mock trade. Who are they selecting?
Yeah, they're going with Caleb Johnson, the running back out of Iowa, number 67 overall. Laura had a great year this past season. Some believe he is best fit in a zone scheme, but I think the Commanders are looking for a little bit more power in their backfield to tag team along with Brian Robinson, take a little bit of load off of him. Johnson had a very effective year this past season as a pass catcher as well. Ran only a 4.57 at the combine, which is why he is available in the beginning of the third round.
Well, let's go to the 68th pick, and for that, we've got another trade here. The Raiders will send pick 68 to the Steelers for pick 83 in a 2026 third-round pick. So, Mel, who will the Steelers be selecting with this newly acquired pick?
Remember, we have a second-round pick. Took Derek Harmon, defensive tackle out of Oregon, in the first round. Got to get a young quarterback, and with Jalen Milroe slipping through the cracks and sliding down to a point where you got to go get him. You got to go get him. You got to roll the dice that you can do with Jalen Milroe.
So two Lamars in the same division.
What the Buffalo Bills did with Josh Allen. You got to create a quarterback who could be consistent throwing the football and more accurate throwing the football. The talent is in abundance. Big-time arm, rocket arm, chiseled 6'2", 217-pound frame, and incredible speed and running ability. So he's going to be used in packages right away, whether he's ready to throw the football in the NFL at a consistent level or not. His running skills are big time. So I think you roll the dice here, you go get him, and you hope you can develop Jalen Milroe into a quality starting quarterback.
Oh, I love this. Phil, do you think it's necessary for the Steelers to trade up for Milroe?
Well, we talked about at the beginning of this mock draft, Laura, how Aaron Rodgers we're assuming is the quarterback, which is why they did not take a player at number 21 overall. That being said, a little bit of a dangerous game to assume that he will, A, be their quarterback, but more importantly, Laura, be their quarterback beyond this upcoming season, as he will be 42 in December, will Aaron Rodgers. So when it comes to quarterbacks, what you don't do is get cute in the draft. If Jalen Milroe is somehow still here, and I think Mel and I are not even totally sold that he will make it to the third round, but if he is there, if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you make the aggressive move up the board. There are other teams, whether it's the New York Jets, whether it's the Raiders, who in this case actually traded back with Pittsburgh, that could be in the quarterback market. And while Jalen Milroe has one of the most tantalizing skill sets that we have talked about throughout this process, throughout the show as well, is he also is going to have some appeal to teams that don't need a quarterback right now, but are thinking far ahead. So you can't assume that just because the teams that need a quarterback right away have already made their investments, that he will get to you at that original slot for your third-round pick, Mel.
Yeah, he could be a late one, and nobody would have a problem with that or argue with it and be surprised by it. He's going to be in Green Bay for a reason. But I think the second-round area, third-round area, where you talk about a Kyle McCord coming out of Syracuse, a Will Howard coming out of Ohio State, formerly of Kansas State, what he was able to accomplish there. We've already talked about Tyler Shuck coming out of Louisville. So there are other quarterbacks that are going to be in the mix. They all can't go in the second round. You're going to see some third, fourth-round quarterbacks. Some teams are going to roll the dice on. Percentage chance of hitting there, slim, but they're going to keep firing. They're going to keep trying. So for Jalen Milroe, he could go the range, late one, all the way down to where we have him right now in this mock.
Yeah, and depending on where he ends up, as we say for a lot of players, could end up being a steal for somebody if he fell as far as the third round. Let's jump ahead to the 90th pick. The Rams are up. Mel, who are they selecting?
Well, quarterback, Laura, we had talked about Jackson Dart maybe being in the mix. Sean McVay is going to handpick his guy at some point. The heir apparent to Matthew Stafford, the great Hall of Fame quarterback Matthew Stafford. And I think Will Howard, to me, has a skill set that's a little underrated.
I like that pick for the Rams.
Size, the arm. He can move. He can keep the chains moving. And people talk about the Michigan game. He was banged up in that game. That's why he didn't play as well as he had all year. And when he had that gauntlet of games, he delivered, and he led them to a national title. And it wasn't easy. They didn't have the left tackle. Donovan Jackson slid out there for Josh Simmons.
That is true, but like they had the best team.
To minimize or talk about less than what he accomplished and put it in a light that isn't as strong as I think Will Howard was, is, I think, not accurate. Will Howard was a key entity in that Buckeye offense and for that football team. And when you can get him at this point in the draft for Sean McVay to handpick Will Howard, I think would make a lot of sense.
Kind of sad we're at the end here, guys. But as we conclude this three-round mock draft, a lot of teams came away with some solid selections. Mel, which team do you think came away with the best group of players?
Laura, it worked out in field for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They took the obvious, okay? Don't overthink it. Take Mason Graham, defensive tackle, is a positional need area. But then Luther Burden slips into the early second, a guy we were projecting mid-first not that long ago. And I love Andrew Makuba. This is an underrated striker. He will attack you. He will hit you. When Clemson to Texas had a big year for the Lord, sets the tone up front, super disruptive. They needed help on the back end. So you get the corner and you get the safety and you help out Trevor Lawrence with Luther Burden. That's a heck of a draft for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Isn't it funny, Laura, that Mel had all the Jaguars picks to make for himself and he happens to love their takeaway? Give me the Kansas City Chiefs, who I had, I believe, 3 out of the 4 picks for Kansas City. But I'm most enamored by the very beginning and the very end of it, as Josh Connerly Jr. would help them fortify that left side of the line after they signed Jalen Moore to a 2-year deal in free agency. And I think Dylan Fairchild out of Georgia, like his counterpart Tate Ratledge at Georgia, are both kind of ready-made starters at guard. Athletic, tough, dependable players. When the Chiefs lost against the Bucs in the Super Bowl a handful of years ago, they rebuilt the offensive line. They just got smacked by the Eagles. What are they going to do now? Rebuild the offensive line.
I'd nominate the Browns, too. I thought you guys did a really nice job for them. Now, make sure to check out all of our draft coverage on ESPN.com and ESPN Plus as we count down to the NFL draft in Green Bay. We'll see you next week. Thanks to Mel and Fields.